Hello and welcome to Media7. I'm Russell Brown. We cover the provincial and traditional and the thoroughly modern in this show, and we'll start with Facebook. The latest in a long line of revamps to the social networking service has prompted the familiar chorus of complaints. But there's more to be concerned about than yet another rearrangement of the screen, as Sam Mulgrew explains in The Source.
82% of Kiwis have visited Facebook.com, and most of us signed up when we went there. We've joined the 800 million people worldwide who have joined Facebook in just 7 years. Because it's all happening on Facebook. Every day, 2 billion likes, 250 million photos, and 1 billion posts are all broadcast through the network. Combined, this equates to 10 billion episodes of EastEnders, all played at once. Facebook helps us organise our drinking schedules and allows us to share the things we find interesting. In Iran, homosexuals living under barbaric anti-gay laws have the freedom of collective protest on Facebook. But thanks to a discovery by blogger Nick Kubrilovich, it seems Facebook tracks your web browsing with auto-installed cookies even after you log off from your profile. Scary stuff, but would Facebook be overburdened by morals? After an advertising venture with Facebook, the Diageo booze company saw a 20% rise in US drink sales. And an estimated 7.5 million users are under the minimum sign-up age of 13 years. Facebook software, which recognised your face and automatically tagged you in photos, broke numerous real-world privacy laws. And in the latest offering, called Frictionless Sharing, a new Facebook app from The Guardian automatically posts any article you click on to your profile newsfeed. Hey, you've always got the freedom to leave, but you're gonna start missing birthdays. And Facebook stores all your information and history anyway. It's been collected and collated. The great book of our race. Available only to advertisers and hackers. And while the Facebook stock float might be around the corner, it's all privately owned.
Our intern and Facebook friend Sam Mulgrew there. I'm joined now by that Australian blogger Nick Kubrilovich himself. Welcome.
Thank you.
And local IT commentator Ben Gracewood. Welcome, Ben.
Hello.
Now, Nick, when did you first realise there was an issue with Facebook tracking web use outside Facebook, and what did you do about it?
So about a year ago, I was working on some Facebook applications, and as part of that, I've been involved in security and privacy research for about 15 years now. And while developing an application and playing around with it, I noticed that in one of the browsers where I was already logged off, that there were cookies still remaining there. And so I filed that in the back of my head.
Define cookies. Cookies are a little file that websites write to your browser. What do they do?
So cookies are an identifier. It's what the browser uses to identify you to the server. So when you make a request to the server, that request, along with the address of the website, sends along any cookies that are included with it as well. And then the server can see those cookies, and it can distinguish, it knows who you are and if you're logged in or not. So cookies are simply just an identifier to identify your browser with the server.
So carry on.
And so when I was working on this, and I filed it in the back of my head, this is about last October, and then a couple of weekends later I had some spare time. And so I thought, I'm going to really drill into this issue and figure out what's going on here. So I opened a number of browsers, I went through it, spent the weekend taking traffic from the Facebook server, analysing everything, and I realised that even after a user logs out, that there were cookies remaining, and not only that, but the cookies were important revealing data, including the user's ID. So what this meant is, even if you're logged out of Facebook, every time you'd visit another page that had a Facebook like button on it, it was sending your user ID along with it, so they knew who you were. And so the next thing I did was, I thought, I should bring this to their attention. So I drafted an email. I sent the email to about 3 or 4 people, including the security contact, the privacy contact, and a couple of guys that I knew. And I got all excited about it, sent it, and I heard absolutely nothing back.
And I gather they did not actually really do anything or respond at all until you went public with it quite recently.
And so I followed up with a couple of emails after. About a month afterwards, I sent another email to another guy that I spoke to. And then what happened was 2 weeks ago at the F8 Facebook conference, they announced frictionless sharing. And frictionless sharing is where things are shared on Facebook without user intervention. So you might be on the Wall Street Journal web application, or you might be in the Guardian web application, which was mentioned in the segment, and you read a story, and Facebook might decide, well, he seems to take a keen interest in that story, we're going to put it up on his profile. And I thought the combination of frictionless sharing with the logout issue could be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and the key part to the frictionless thing is that I haven't made a choice to share that. The fact that I've been looking at that page, the choice has been made for me.
Correct. The choice has been made by an algorithm.
But you would have opted into the application, though, surely, at some point? You opted into the Guardian application at an earlier stage?
Yeah, so instead of explicitly sharing each item, the condition now is when you install the Guardian application, you check a box that says, from here on out, do what you please. Do what you think I would want to share. And so with the logout issue, I thought there are going to be users that are going to be logged out and not knowing that they might have stuff that's shared automatically. And what they actually came from was that there was such a big reaction to frictionless sharing in the blogosphere amongst tech bloggers. And a prominent tech blogger, Dave Weiner, wrote a post that said, Facebook is scaring me because of all these features. And in the end of his post, he said, well, if you don't like it, you can just log out. And I read that and I thought, well, actually, no, it's, even if you log out, there's still an issue. So I wrote a blog post about it, published it. I thought there would be a reaction amongst the sort of usual circles within the tech sort of circles, but within half an hour I had an email from Facebook.
And you've spent your entire day in your hotel room doing interviews about this now, haven't you?
Yeah, it's since then it's been crazy. I mean, the mainstream has really caught onto it. We were talking earlier about if this story had been published a couple of years ago, and similar stories were published a couple of years ago regarding Google and a number of other companies, it probably wouldn't have had the same reaction as what it's had now.
Ben, I wonder if perhaps our surprise should be limited, because this has always been the quid pro quo for these wonderful tools, not just from Facebook, but from the likes of Google, hasn't it? That we get the free tools, they get our information.
Absolutely. At some point in the deep past of the web, there was a tacit agreement made that users would use most things for free, and that would be paid for by advertising. And so while you visit the Facebook page, it costs you nothing, there's billions of dollars changing hands between Facebook and advertisers. And Facebook is a $100 billion company. And that value has to come from somewhere, and that value comes from the aggregate data that we give it by visiting other pages and this sort of thing. And I think the point I'd like to make is that the sum total of the technologies is not a problem. Cookies aren't a problem. We use them every day. We love them for logging onto websites. Sharing data isn't a problem if you opt in. We use it for Google search, improving our search results and this sort of thing. But I think the problem comes when that is combined with the sheer scale of Facebook. Facebook, I think, Nick, you said on 35% of the, what was the top 1,000?
So of the top 1,000 websites in the world, 35% of them integrate Facebook in one way or another.
Yeah, and every one of those Facebook like buttons or share buttons or comment things is a tiny window into a wormhole that goes all the way back to Facebook servers. And at the end of that is Mark Zuckerberg's eye looking back out at you like Sauron,
And writing a cookie too. Is that the case? Every website that has it is. So Facebook really is watching us far beyond the boundaries of Facebook, isn't it? Is that really is that what the concern is?
Yeah. So for the first time, you have a large web service that's reaching hundreds of millions of users. And not only that, but they're reaching outside of the bounds of their own Facebook.com domain name. So you're seeing their requests and their images on other websites that you visit. So you can't specifically isolate Facebook on its own and think, well, I'm not visiting the page today, so therefore I've got nothing to really worry about. Most of the major news sites have the like buttons and share buttons integrated. Most of the major blogs have like buttons integrated. So it's really at a point now where if you are armed with just a standard browser, there's not much you can do to avoid Facebook.
Yeah, we will talk about what you can do, because you've got some quite good advice on this. Ben, have you ever looked up, say, on Google, your web search history?
I think I did.
I only discovered how to do that this week, and it is quite an alarming
I don't want to
thing
look
to
at
do.
mine.
Exactly. I think I did a while ago. I haven't looked for a long time.
Oh, I searched for that 5 years ago.
Has your taste changed in time?
And let's not go into that, actually. And yet I had the opportunity to click a button on Google's site and erase that entire history, and I didn't, because I realised it was improving the quality of my searches. Yeah. Because Google was learning what I liked.
Yeah, I mean, these things have value. Like you say, Google search history improves your own search results, it probably improves other people's search results as well, because they can associate these things together anonymously. And so there is value in it. I was trying to find a decent analogy. The best thing I've come up with so far is like a toll road, like the Northern Toll Road, where you drive through. You could drive back and forth on it every day, and it's a lovely road, and you wouldn't pay anything until you get the bill. And I think the thing people have to realise is using Google, using Facebook, using Twitter, using these things, every time you see that little like button, there is a cost involved. It's not completely free. And that
what's in it for me? I can
financial.
see what's in it for me with Google. I can't quite see what's in it for me with Facebook. I mean, I'm there because I feel I have to be, but...
Yeah.
I'm not seeing quite the quid pro quo.
I don't know if you're quite the target market. You've got your own website, right? And you pay money to run that website. There's a financial transaction on. You can choose to advertise, you can choose not to. But for my mum, for people that don't have a web presence, then Facebook is their web presence. That's their scrapbook. It's their photo album, and that's the value they're gaining from it. So I think maybe the target market sees a lot more value in it than perhaps the tech sphere does.
Now, Nick, after you wrote that blog, the Australian Privacy Commissioner expressed concern and quite quickly had that concern assuaged by Facebook, and then put out a statement saying it was all fixed up, it was a technical flaw. Was it all fixed up?
Yeah, his investigation involved asking Facebook if everything was okay. And they reassured him that everything was okay.
Is everything okay?
No. Well, it's okay in one extent in that they fixed the logout issue, but there are still ongoing issues here. And I thought that the incident from last week was a great opportunity to talk about the issue and to have somebody like our Privacy Commissioner come out into the public and say, well, there's been an issue, but here's what you guys can do about it, instead of him, sort of trying to reassure everybody that everything's okay.
So what can you do about it? You've talked about using 2 different web browsers.
Yeah, so my approach, this has sort of been catching on now, is instead of using a single web browser for everything, so with one web browser, you've got one store of cookies. And so wherever you visit, it's going to pick out the Facebook cookie and keep sending it back to the site. The easiest thing to do is take your ordinary web browser, install a second one, such as Google Chrome or Firefox or the Opera browser, and select one browser specifically just for social networking. So that's a browser where you would visit facebook.com, Google Plus if you use it, or Twitter if you use it, and then use that second browser for web surfing. And all that you've got to do is to make sure that on that second browser that you're not logged into Facebook or into any of the other sites.
Are people going to do that though, Ben?
It's probably quite tricky. I mean, it's a good solution. It's tricky. I mean, I have come at it from a different angle, where maybe again, it's maybe realising the value of that actual transaction, perhaps going and paying a site to host your information for you, and then you can do what you want. You can choose to opt out, you can choose to advertise, choose to not. And I think blogging platforms and software has come a long way as well. So maybe people can start thinking about, if they want to host their photos, go and do it somewhere where it's perhaps has more concern for your privacy.
Yeah. And I just wonder, we've seen scare stories this week, Nick, that people may soon, with the frictionless sharing, have their porn browsing habits turning up in their new Facebook timeline. Is that really going to happen? Because people do have to give permission for this, don't they?
Well, you give permission the first time. So the issue here is that I don't think there's any malicious intent here from Facebook. I think what the problem is that they're overreaching in terms of collecting data, and that's setting up an environment where at some point in the future, we don't know what feature they're going to write. I mean, people are already realizing, we hear it here tonight, for what we're giving up to Facebook, we're not getting enough in return. So they might start getting aggressive in terms of what they return to us, and they might start digging into that data and writing features that, for instance, may suggest stories on our Facebook based on our browsing history. And before you know it, the collision of those 2 or 3 different things could result in a privacy breach.
It does sound kind of creepy, doesn't it? Where basically Facebook is telling you what it thinks you should read based on what you've read before.
Yeah, there's also the element, though, of don't attribute to malice, what could be incompetence, and Nick again made some points, and I agree, where you can imagine an engineer inside of Facebook is saying, well, I know that people have signed off to these terms of service, which no one ever reads, and I know that I can do this in the technological approach, so therefore I'm going to do it, and I don't need to get anyone's sign off because I know I can do it and know it's signed off, and they just go ahead and do it. And maybe what we're seeing is some remnants of people attempting these things, or trying new things in new ways and forgetting to clean up after themselves.
Just briefly, are we in the post-privacy age, as Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook suggests?
I think users will eventually have more control over their privacy than ever before. Just the tools need to be written.
Well, I look forward to that day. Thank you, Nick Gabrilowicz and Ben Gracewood. And if you'd like to read Nick's privacy tips, we've posted them on our Facebook page. After the break, the Rugby World Cup, Beyond the Rugby.